So you can see this buck coming in, following about 20 yards behind this doe. And this is the one that I honestly had a better opportunity to put a shot on. He came right in front of me at like 15 to 20 yards and stopped several times. But given previous heartache and the fact that, you know, my husband was sitting just to the north of me, which is the direction they were going, I really wanted him to be able to get a shot on that deer. So I let them slide. Let him slide. The other thing with this was a little fork came in after, so it kind of turned into like it was still and quiet, and then like it just became complete mayhem with this buck chasing this doe, and then this fork chasing the buck, and then the deer that I shot chasing them. So I mean, and they're not really chasing, but they were all following each other. And then here comes the deer I shot. I realized the deer was like not completely stopped at all when I shot, but fortunately it worked out this time. So about 10 yards after the hit site, we found half of the arrow and no guts were on it.
It went through him.
So this was the entrance. I got him hanging here. He's a nice buck, nice big body. As I was telling my husband, that 8 that I let go, I mean, they have about the same size body. So entrance is right here. It wasn't a gut shot. So it actually ended up hitting a main aortic artery that runs right through there. It did also clip the top of the 2 lungs. So this was the entry. You can see on the deer, it's a little high. You know, I mean, it'd be better if it was in here. It probably wouldn't have gone 170 if it was in here, but it did go 170 yards with very sparse blood. So it essentially, the whole chest cavity was filled with blood, and it bled out internally. So the entry is there, and the exit, where did the exit go? Exit's right here. So again, a little high, but you know, if we're looking at it like, it's just right there. And you might be wondering what this is. So actually, funny story, my husband shot at this deer couple weeks ago and he jumped the string, so his broadhead slid over, you know. So Chris was looking to aim more like right where you want to, but things happen. So I was like, when we found it, he was like, that deer looks familiar, check its top and see if there's a injury on him. And we were like, holy cow, yeah, funny story. So one way or another, he ended up in our garage. That we have the deer, I'm going to clarify some things and just go over some learning points and share some helpful images I have. So before I really got into bow hunting, such a love-hate relationship, I tracked for many bow hunters with my dog, and there's a lot to be learned there. So I have a lot of like useful pictures that are like you know, dead deer pins in posters and stuff, and I'll talk about where I hit this deer and why it did die. It was not a gut shot. It was close, and it was, you know, that deer, as we go back and we'll watch the video, it never actually stopped. So that kind of, I think, put it farther back than I thought. Also, I have like consistently been shooting a few inches to the right and low. So I thought, okay, I'll just go a few inches up and to the left. And that's probably not a good idea. This arrow went exactly where I put it. So I'm always learning. But I'm going to share just a few images here to talk about where it was hit. So it was really kind of cool because when we were tracking, the blood was very dismal. The blood was very dismal. It was like speck, and then it was like pin drop. I mean, the deer went a total of 170 yards, and it took us like 3 hours because we were going so slow. And we knew it went out into this bean field, but just like as a tracking like rule of thumb, you don't just want to like go out to where you think it went. Like there's too many like hard lessons to be learned there. Sometimes you think it went somewhere, and then you second guess yourself, like maybe it didn't go there. Maybe it like hooked hard somewhere. They do all kinds of things when they're shot, so you can't assume that just because like it went a certain direction that it went there. So we took our time, went slow, blood, and then we were like 30 yards from the edge of the tree line when we completely lost blood. So my husband has a thermal monocular, and I'm all like, on the brink of tears, like, man, I hate just like hurting deer and not finding them. Like, it's absolutely heartbreaking, especially like when I saw I hit it. I was fairly confident, even if it was like, I thought it was a gut shot. So I knew like that deer's gonna be dead. It might take 12 hours, which is another reason we went really slow. When I figured out it wasn't a gut shot is when we found the arrow. So the arrow didn't quite pass through. It's like it went mostly through, and the deer pulled it and snapped it and then pulled the rest of it out. So the whole arrow was coated, but it was found in 2 parts. There was blood on both sides of the blood trail. And when we found the arrow, nothing smelled like guts. It was not, it was just like artery blood. It was a deep red, not super bright, but it was like a nice red that you want to see artery blood. And I'll also share like an arrow picture that I have like with how the arrow is coated in blood or what it looks like, and then wait times recommended for tracking. Because a lot of times the biggest mistake is people just get on it too soon, and then they end up like pushing the deer. So we were kind of in a situation where if it went any farther, we probably weren't going to be able to track it. We'd have to like bug people and in the middle of the night and get permission, or get permission the next day. We're both working, so I would have made it happen, but I'm grateful I didn't have to. So anyways, we're 30 yards from the tree line or the edge of the field, and my husband's standing out there, and I'm following behind him. He gets to the edge, and he's scanning the field and like this east tree line of the field, and he's like, I'm not seeing anything. And I looked to the west, and there was a deer right there, like 5 feet to the left of him, and I was like, how'd you miss that? It's right there, and then I ran up and like jumped on him, like, oh my god, thank god I didn't hurt a deer and like not find it. It's the worst feeling ever. I was like, never give up. And also, if there's not a lot of blood, it doesn't mean it's not a dead deer. I've seen this so many times. I've seen it in rifle, I've seen it in archery, where it's just specks. So it's really important to like know your shot placement. I know it's hard, but to try to see your shot placement. I mean, on this deer I saw my shot placement, which looked far back, and it looked lower, which would have left the aorta artery at that point. It would have, I clipped the top of the lungs too. It wouldn't have hit that. It would have been down, maybe liver, but guts. So liver guts. And I think the reason I thought that was like the blood, obviously, like gravity goes down. So I saw this red spot on the deer when it was like running away, and I'm like, wow, like I've done really good. I'm really like watching it, and I saw where it hit, and it's a dead deer. Other deer that I've gotten away, it was like, I know where I aimed, but I didn't see it hit. So the deer was probably about like 27, pushing 30 yards in total. So I also thought it was like closer, so my pin wasn't, but I shot high. So there's all these things, but I'm just really grateful to have the harvest and be able to share what I learn and share some hopefully like useful tools for other hunters. Easier to know like things about blood and things about tracking. And I didn't get any footage of us tracking. It was dark, but yeah, enjoy. So you might get this picture from a deer tracker with a dog, but that's where I thought I hit it. And so this image is really helpful, just as far as like where major spots are. This is the blood on the arrow. Back to this, that's where I hit the deer. And I definitely recommend taking a screenshot of this. It's super helpful looking at your arrow and seeing like your wait times. I think this is also really helpful to look at. So this was a dog tracker, made this map of tracks they did, and red was dead, green was alive, and I think blue was unknown. But yeah, all good things to keep and put in your little photo album for referencing.